What's going on? The Styles Exchange YouTube channel. Here we are. Mike, Ari, it's your fellas. Here to talk about Obi-Wan. We've already talked about Obi-Wan today once. Here to do it again. How are you today, Mike?
Dude, I'm doing great. You and I, after we recorded our little review earlier, we were able to sit down and watch the episode again. And it was cool watching it again and already expecting what happened in there and have like a more of a refreshed take and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm doing great. It's Star Wars Day today. It's game day, so I'm doing amazing. Definitely. How about you? What's going on with you? I mean, besides all the Obi-Wan stuff.
I mean, oh my God. It's been a very busy couple of days. A lot going on this last week, but I'm just psyched to talk about Star Wars with my guy, Mike, of course, but also returning guest to the podcast. It's Parks, Artorr. How are you, Parks? Oh, what's happening here?
It's over, Mike and Ari. I have the high ground. Hello.
No.
Hi. This
you guys set me up.
Yeah, we did.
I've been planning this all day. I was like, what's a good reason for Parks to just not be here? And I was like, he's just getting ready. I don't know. I was like, he'll just be late.
I had to defeat Vader, man. I had a rematch.
Yeah.
And then I had to go see Luke on Tatooine. And who was there? Reva, of course. So I had to deal with all that.
It's been a big day for Obi-Wan down here.
I feel like
it's so big. My lightsaber doesn't work anymore. It doesn't glow. It's just
you know what?
I can do this, no problem.
Parks, this reminded me of your old Tour days when you would do these skits. So I appreciate it. I feel like I'm 15 years old watching you again on YouTube. So that's amazing. And he's got a haircut. Wow, look at him. Just wow, he's buzzing. He's got
I had Obi-Wan length hair about a week ago, but it was getting too unmanageable. I had to cut it. So I had that, and then I thought of this bit after I did that, and I was like,
you and your bits. I got to say, we got some good responses from our April Fool's joke with you, and look at now. This is a forever golden moment where Ari lied to me about your status, and I was so confused. So yeah, I'm glad this is all happening now before our eyes. But welcome everyone to the live stream. We got Parks up in here. Parks, how's it going? Besides your little cosplay you got going on today, how's it hanging? And what's going on with you since the last time we talked?
I've been working on a Mandalorian video. That's like the main thing right now. So I've been devoting an unhealthy amount of time to Star Wars for the last 3 months. That's how long I've been working on the video. I started working on the video last time I was on your guys' show. That was like 3 months ago. So
wow.
But the video's coming soon. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Obi-Wan. And I have thoughts. I can say that much. So
we're keen to hear them. Before we do, a few people join us. Chelsea, what's going on? Mod Chelsea.
Hello,
Mod
Chelsea.
True.
Hi, Chelsea.
Richard.
Hi, True.
How are you?
Hi, Richard.
He says, also, how I never met Parks, but I definitely know that you are just as freaking awesome as Mike and Ari.
Debatably more awesome than them. I don't know. These guys have never entered as Obi-Wan Kenobi people.
No, we did not have an awesome entrance like that. I
have the high
chair
ground.
You have the high ground.
It doesn't look like it. Hold on. I'll give you the high ground for a second.
He's going to switch
There you go.
I like this better.
Ground.
I like this.
No, I don't.
What? Parks, if I'm going to be honest with you for a second,
you know what I like
right
better?
Up there.
Oh, looking better.
Oh, let's go.
You know what? I like it because guess what, Parks? Ari and I were talking earlier how you're really the unofficial third co-host up in here because you've just joined us for so many. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I feel honored. Yeah.
You're the third man in. Anytime we're like, we need to bring another voice to this, we're like, all right, let's get Parks up in here.
Yeah.
But and you know what, Parks, though? You know what I also love is your opinions. And you've been watching Obi-Wan Kenobi. I want to hear your thoughts about the finale in a second. But overall, how have you been feeling about the series? Have you been vibing with it? What's going on with you? Look at that fade. I love it.
Yeah, let's just talk about that.
Let's just talk about.
So where'd you get your haircut? No,
Yeah. No, I mean, I might be Obi-Wan Kenobi right now, but I'll be honest. By the end of this, you guys might be calling me Darth Vader. I didn't love this show. And you know, I'm someone who's very capable of sitting down for any Star Wars thing, and you know, even if I might disagree with some creative choices, I still find things usually to enjoy where I can go, yeah, it's all right. Just focus on this and you have a good time. With this show, I think, you know, while there are like a lot of great moments throughout and a lot of really like a lot of, you know, really fantastic creative choices, and obviously Ewan McGregor, you know, brilliant actor, just like he did in the prequels. He elevates literally every single frame he's in. He's incredible. But on the whole, I think I week to week I struggled to really care or have fun with the show, and I'm disappointed to say that, but you know, ultimately it might have not been the show for me. And you know, before I say anything else, I just want to say this, like, despite, you know, whatever my opinion on the show is or whatever disagreements I might have with Mike and Ari tonight, you know, I'm coming in with not the most positive take. I just want to say, like, and you know, Mike and Ari, trust me on this. I have no interest in having anything less than a fun and civil conversation. You know,
Right.
like I promise, you know, to sit here for the next few hours or however long this takes with an entirely open mind. However I feel about things now could change by the end.
Yes.
And even if they don't, even if we still disagree on things, that's okay. Cause you know, at the end of the day, like, I'm just here to have fun and just to share my thoughts, and,
Yeah.
you know, chat, you're very free to just, you know, bash on any of my opinions, or take my side, you know, against them. But, you know, I've been trying to watch some of your, you know, your reviews on the show over the last few weeks. I kind of have an idea of where you guys are at with the show. Of course, I don't know how you feel about the finale as much, but
Yes.
yeah, I think, and yeah, Obi-Wan certainly been the best part, and I think, if you know, the strongest thing about the show has been the characters. Anytime, you know, Deborah Chow is permitted to sort of have these, you know, these really in-depth character moments. Was about to type Park Sweep, yeah. Um, love you, dude. Star Wars dude. But anyway, yeah, anytime she's like permitted to have these like, you know, character moments where she can lean into Obi-Wan's trauma, where she can, you know, look at Darth Vader's resentment and sort of Leia's naivety, I think the show really soars. And when, you know, the show is sort of relying on the plot to move things along, when it's sort of, you know, trying to lean into sort of the more technical aspects, I thought, you know, I found myself disconnecting and disengaging from the show quite a lot. But those are all things we'll get into, I'm sure, along the way tonight. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us your take. Shout out to Adrian in the chat, by the way. Adrian has been always hitting me up and being like, when's the podcast dropping? When's the podcast dropping? So Adrian, welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a good day. And I want to echo Park's sentiment out there. I know there's people that, you know, haven't been loving, you know, everyone's opinions about the show. Jasper. So we'll just keep it civil in the chat. We'll keep it civil conversation. No slapping.
Let's just say no shout outs coming Jasper's way this episode, I guess.
Yeah,
after a heated
shout-outs.
pre-show discussion.
Yeah, exactly. No, nothing for that. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, I would like to disagree with the sentiment. I'd prefer to keep it uncivilized. Let's just rag on each other. Let's just go all in, all for it, because
listen here, all right.
No, of course.
I think Jon Favreau should have directed this show.
Oh, that's a hot take.
It was just joking. It was just a hypothetical.
Well,
see, I can't commit to it.
Okay, so yeah, okay, Obi-Wan. I'm excited for this discussion now, because I'm not crazy about the series. I'm not going to give a bloody series review here or anything, but I guess people have seen our thoughts on the finale today. We dropped a video, but Parks, what did you think? Even though you know the series, you're not all in for it. How did the finale contribute to that sort of, you know, that mindset? Like, did that help in any way, or did this make you think even more what you've already been thinking about the series?
The finale, I think, I mean, it paid off what it set up, and to me, what it set up felt very like the story has a very predictable trajectory, I think, and that's fine. Star Wars tends to follow very predictable beats. What makes those beat, and especially when you're dealing with characters where their fates are well and truly sealed. Like we know what happens to Ben Kenobi and Darth Vader and Leia, and it's hard to tell a prequel story with them in a way that hasn't turned back the clock as far as the prequels, and make it like compelling, make it engaging for the audience. But with the finale, I'd say like, yeah, you get the rematch of Obi-Wan and Vader, and that was something I was looking forward to. And you get Leia's return to Alderaan, and that's a sweet moment. And you get lots of great Star Wars closure at the end, which I really enjoyed. But there's also some things thrown in there that to me, I realized like I didn't feel anything seeing them, like Palpatine showing up or Qui-Gon showing up, where these were moments that I think I already knew were going to happen, but the way they happened, where they happened, it I don't know. It's all a bit muddled in my head still, and I can't really make a complete sort of dissertation for whatever didn't sit right with me. But if there is one thing I can pinpoint, it's that the sort of the storytelling, as I said, with the characters, I really enjoyed in the show, and I think the character beats make a lot of sense. And if there's one, like, if the best compliment I can give this show, and this especially was apparent to me in the finale, where it matters the most, really, where you're sticking the landing on all the themes, is that Deborah Chow understands Star Wars. Is that I think she understands the themes, she understands what Vader and Obi-Wan represent, especially Vader. As someone, or Anakin, however you want to view him, someone who represents ultimately, he could be any one of us. He's someone who, wakes up every day, makes choices, doesn't always make the right choice, and is tempted with power over time, ultimately gives into it, faces the consequences of it, becomes Vader, and that is ultimately, like, I was so glad that was sort of the final character, like, beat between Vader and Obi-Wan was Obi-Wan finally realizing that was a choice that Anakin made. It was not a good choice. Obi-Wan has, it's hard for Obi-Wan to accept that, but ultimately Obi-Wan realizes it's not his fault. And so, yeah, I that was like, yes, I appreciate that. It's not, trying to, say something different about those themes. It's not trying to undercut anything. It's being true to what those themes are, as they have been in all the best Star Wars stories. Where the finale kind of sits kind of lukewarm with me, no pun intended, is Reva. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed her character, but she's been a little bit of a mixed bag for me in the show. I feel like she needed more. I don't know. And that what they did with her character in this episode felt like it was pulling away from what was going on with Obi-Wan, and really maybe the storyline should have been sort of centered at the end. And I've seen some people say stuff like, oh, her going after Luke is a little bit like breaks canon. It doesn't break canon. And in fact, like, there was moments in Legends where people wanted Maul to be in this story. Well, there's been moments where Maul goes after Luke and Obi-Wan has to stop him. Right. And I mean, he kind of tries to do that in Rebels too. So, it's not, unusual to see that come through. And I apologize if I'm rambling. I'm just trying to go through my thoughts. But ultimately, like, the thing that the Reva thing was one thing where I was like, I'm not super invested in this. But the ultimate underlying thing that for me has undercut a lot of the show is the entire technical side of it.
Yeah.
And that's for camera work. That's the CG. That's the music. I love Natalie Holt. She's a fantastic composer. Her score for Loki, incredible, dude.
Yes.
Loki's my favorite Marvel show. I mean, Daredevil aside, but we don't, Daredevil's up there. But
Thank you for putting it on the pedestal that it deserves.
Exactly. But her music, incredible. Here, didn't do a lot for me. I love John Williams' Obi-Wan theme, but her music throughout the rest of the show, I don't know, man. When she wasn't using Obi-Wan's theme, nothing was hitting me. And
right.
And
that's not, she didn't even write that theme as well. That's John Williams' theme. So it's like you could argue, what did she actually?
Yeah,
it sounds kind of toxic to say that, and I feel bad, but it's like, what did she really like put forward? Because the music was just the biggest bummer for me. Besides the last 5 minutes, I was like, and outside of the Obi-Wan theme, I was just like, oh, this is just because like, sorry, I need to just go on my tangent here, but like the Mandalorian has like this really original sort of sound, but that's okay because that's super like detached from everything going on in the Star Wars universe. It's a new character and all that, but this is familiar characters, and this is like almost like a Star Wars 3.5 unofficially. Leia's involved, Luke's involved. Exactly. Imagine if the sequel trilogy, like the music just was completely original and they didn't use any of the original motifs. It would have felt so out of place, and like I just don't understand that choice here, and I don't know why someone didn't tell her. I really respect the decision to try and be original and put your own sound out there, but it's like you had this like you really want to make something feel like Star Wars, especially when you got Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen coming back. So the music was, outside of the Inquisitors, was the biggest disappointment of the series.
I would agree. The Inquisitor theme was kind of good. Like when I remember it hitting me when the show.
I was just saying the Inquisitors were like we're just in general, like that was the thing that disappointed me the most. I don't even know what the Inquisitor sound was.
You're just mentioning music, and then
I'm saying my biggest disappointment was the Inquisitors, and the second was the music.
I thought, okay, I was gonna say the Inquisitors have a theme in the show that I kind of like. That's it.
Parks, let me ask you, what did you think of her highly anticipated Stormtrooper theme?
What? What Stormtrooper theme?
That's what I'm saying. I'm still trying to like quote? I go back to the episode. I guess it was supposed to take place in the Fortress Inquisitorius episode. Go back, try to find it. Couldn't find it. Like it's just lost in oblivion. Like it's so bland. The score is so bland. So I've already talked about this ad nauseum on the previous like the 2 podcasts about the music. No, about the score. About the score.
I went minute by minute. Not a single recognizable theme.
It's a Stormtrooper theme. Something of note. I'm so confused. Or is that just a joke?
No. She said in her interviews for marketing the show, she was like, "Oh my gosh, like there's this really cool Stormtrooper theme that I wrote. And I can't wait for you guys."
I've just never heard of this ever before. I mean, I guess you're right, because I definitely didn't hear that in the show. So I didn't notice it at least.
It was. I was looking forward to it, and it was just very bland. So
yeah,
there you go.
Let's just go through some comments real quick before we continue the discussion. But Star Wars dude, your best friend Parks says, reporting Parks for bad takes on Twitter. So that's good. We love Parks' Twitter around here.
I'm already fallen from
no, that's a terrible take by Mr. Dude.
Reporting Star Wars dude for bad takes.
Mod Shane returns. What's going on, Shane?
Hello,
Good
Shane.
to have you. Taylor, what's going on, Taylor? Shout out to Taylor for helping us out with some Star Wars Celebration logistical issues. But they ask, what's our take on if there's a season 2 coming? Parks, I'm going to throw it to you. Do you want a season 2? Do you think there should be one?
A week ago, I was like, oh no, like, because every week it's sort of been ramping up of like, we all want to do a season 2, and I'm like, oh, God, here we go. Because I mean, I wasn't enjoying the show at the time, but I'll, like I said, open mind. If they announce a season 2, if it doesn't deal with Vader or Leia and it stays at a somewhat small, put it this way, like, like I remember in high school talking with my friends about like, oh man, like what if they did an Obi-Wan spinoff film? Like that would be amazing. Ewan McGregor come back, he's the right age, it would be incredible. The idea for that I always wanted was something in the vein of like Mad Max, where Obi-Wan is that hermit that lives in the desert. He's living on his own. He's trying to keep to himself. And then, someone comes along who really, really needs help. And Obi-Wan goes, okay, I'll help you, which is essentially what this show was. And you get a little bit of that with, what's his name? Boken? O'Shea Jackson's character.
Yeah.
Roken, sorry.
What a character.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's enough.
Extremely mid, but whatever.
No, you know, where he's helping these people that, you know, for all of them, he's just going to be sort of, you know, like a legend a little bit, like a folk tale, like of the Jedi who helped us, you know. I would love more stuff like that, you know, where we're not dealing so much with big characters, because it almost, when they tell stories like this at this scale with characters like Vader and Leia, you know, aside from Obi-Wan, because he's the main character and that's the whole premise of the show, it almost feels like watching someone move like a really big expensive vase around, where I'm like, careful where you put it, careful what you do with it, don't drop it.
It's a good analogy.
And there's only so much you can do with characters who have an arc in later films, you know. And granted, you could do more with Vader, I guess. Maybe he's like, well, I'm going to look for Obi-Wan again. But that's just going to lead to another duel. And, you know, the character beat has already been had. You know, Anakin won't change. He's Vader. He won't change. We know that. That's the dark side way. And that's how it is until, you know, his son comes into his life and, you know, gives him a chance. And, you know, Obi-Wan has been able to move on, you know, as that's how he does. And granted, I think, you know, there in some interviews, I think Ian McGregor said, like, he's still not at Alec Guinness. Sorry. Combining their names. But, and yeah, that's true. But, you know, like, I would say I'd rather have a Book of Boba Fett season 2 than simply because the crime world is like such a big.
I'm with you. No, Ari's upset.
If it goes in a different direction in the first season, like the potential would be different.
Who's being negative now, Jasper? All right, sorry, I had to say that.
Oh God.
But yeah, so I wouldn't mind. I guess I would hope it'd be a more contained story.
Yeah, for sure. Richard says, I probably won't stay for long because I have a job orientation tomorrow for a substitute teacher position. So good luck with that, Richard.
Congrats, Richard.
Job orientation. That means you already got the job.
Yeah, congrats. Congrats and good luck.
Look at Chelsea. Good luck with your orientation. What a lovely community we have here. And Leonardo says, greetings.
Leo.
Right back
hello
at
there.
you.
Yes, hello there.
But yeah. This
the guttural reaction I had when he said hello there at the end. I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
Like,
did you love it or did you
I felt a palpable rise in me. I don't know, like almost like a primal instinctive, like, he said the thing, you know. But I'm sure that's how everyone was today.
Yeah. No, I love that.
It's fine. You know, like
Works.
Yes.
I have a pitch for you.
Sorry, you caught me off
Sorry, I
guard.
said that very creepily, but I have a pitch for you.
Okay.
So let's say, like, okay, so I want to pick your brain here for a second about a season 2, right? What if they were able to do, like, what if they did this, the Obi-Wan series as a whole as an anthology series? So every time, the only character that would remain the same would be Obi-Wan, really. So, like, season 1, we already had the story. Season 2, you know, we'd get a different story with Obi-Wan in terms of, like, maybe we could get closer to that, like, you know, Alec Guinness timeline that Obi-Wan keeps talking about. So it's like, I mean, because for me, I just want a one and done, but I do kind of feel empty at the end where it's like, damn, like, I love a lot of the story ideas, but man, I am not loving the execution, right? So and the ending shot with Qui-Gon, I was like, oh man, I want that. Like, I want that. I thought that's what the series was going to be, and I'm sure a lot of people in here probably thought the same. So now that they've left the door open for something like that, I kind of want to go to that. I don't want to see Bale next season, even though high praise for Jimmy Smits, as we said earlier on our editorial reaction of the episode. But like, I would totally love if they focus in on just, if we have a whole series in the desert, just Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, I'm in. So I don't know. Are you more keen on seeing something like that? Because I am with you. I would rather see kind of a Book of Boba Fett thing, but after seeing Qui-Gon, I'm like, I don't know. I've probably fallen the waters of Obi-Wan.
Like I said earlier about, like, you know, sitting with my friends in high school being like, oh bro, like an Obi-Wan show, not a show, a movie was we are all like, we just need a scene where he's talking to Qui-Gon and he's just talking through all the things that happened and all the experiences, and he's able to, like, actually truly heal from a lot of that. Now, of course, he got that in a different sense here. But I you know, and I think I went into the show, and maybe a lot more people went in the show too, thinking this would be more of like an Obi-Wan character study.
Yes.
And he had an arc, but for all intents and purposes, this was more of a Star Wars adventure than it was a character study. And
Yeah.
in that, like, I think, sort of the indifference I walk away from the show with comes down to feeling just a lot of familiarity with other Star Wars stories where, the context might be slightly different here, but not enough new was done to really, like, part 4 being such a big example. You got not just Fallen Order, but you got infiltrating the Death Star, which, again, they did that in Force Awakens, and they did a little bit more of that with rescuing Chewie in Rise of Skywalker, and they've done shades of that in Rebels, and they did that with the Malevolence in the Clone Wars. And so at that point, I was like, man, like, not that, what's one more time gonna hurt, but it's that it's in the entire 4th episode of a 6-episode season where I'm like, man, like this is the long-awaited Kenobi show, huh? Sorry, that sounded very, very cynical, but and like I said, to be, I love Star Wars, and I don't mind, like, Star Wars just naturally repeats itself a lot. The lessons repeat, and that's kind of the point, is that these are easy lessons to acknowledge, but they're not easy lessons to learn, even despite how simple they are. And that's sort of just the lifelong struggle that Star Wars embodies. The same sentiment about Anakin making a choice to become Darth Vader, and making the many choices he does throughout the prequels and the Clone Wars to take more and more power for himself, is that, defeating the dark side is not a one and done thing. It's a choice you make every day. So the lessons need to repeat, over and over again. But I would hope the plots don't necessarily do that as well. And again, like, Leia kind of got kidnapped twice in this show, and I mean, and then of course, like, Obi-Wan and Leia, which I gotta say, best part of the show, but also felt familiar insofar as, we've seen the sort of, Mandalorian Grogu, and also, like, this, I won't discount this on the show, or mark this against the show. Only mentioning this because it's just a thought I wanted to bring up. As a big fan of The Last of Us, I really appreciated the Obi-Wan and Leia sort of like duo, because it's like Joel and Ellie in those games. But yeah, now I would point to what Leo said here in the chat. We just needed and wanted Kenobi. That's kind of it. Like, you didn't need all this other stuff, and that it's there. I think some interesting things were done with it, but I feel like far more sort of new and interesting could have been done maybe with something different. I don't know, like what you were saying before, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
This is kind of unrelated to what you were just talking about, but it flared off in my brain. Should I talk about the comparison I made with the Grand Inquisitor to you today, Mike?
Do it.
With Freddie Mercury.
Do it. We're talking offensive finale.
Heck of a setup.
I was gonna ask you about your opinions on, like, the Inquisitors in general.
Yeah.
But then I remembered today we were just sort of like, me and Mike were just randomly going back and forth about the show, and I was like, you know what Rupert Friend reminds me of? He would remind me of, well, he doesn't remind me of anything, but he makes me think of, imagine in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, if the guy who played Freddie Mercury just, like, never listened to Queen, didn't know what Freddie Mercury looked like, didn't watch any, like, I'm like, that is what Rupert Friend is to me, and it annoys me that more people aren't annoyed about it, because I'm like, how has this guy not watched Rebels, and he's gone and played a character? Like, all he has to do is watch one season and one season 2 episode. How has he not watched Rebels? And the Grand Inquisitor is just so out of character. Like, let's just say it. So the fifth brother is whack as well. I don't know what's going on with him, but from the way he talks to sounds, even just like little things like how he walks, and I mean, the look is not Rupert Friend's fault, okay? But that just adds to just how jarring the whole thing is. So I don't know. I can't. As I said, it's the one thing it's this one of two things I just really can't stand about the show.
I would say almost none of that is Rupert Friend's fault. I think it comes
that he
down
didn't watch Rebels. I feel like that's his fault.
I don't think it's necessary. He didn't have much to do in the show. Like maybe you disagree with definition of much to do, but I don't know. I like, here's the thing. I love Rebels, all right? And the Grand Inquisitor holds a special place in my heart because even though I've said this story before in my videos, I watched the first season of Rebels, wasn't a huge fan of it when I was a kid, dropped out of the show, came back to it only a few years ago and watched the whole thing, and I loved it. Before, season 1, like the very first character to be revealed from that show was the Grand Inquisitor. That was like our breadcrumb of like, oh man, Dave Filoni's working on something new. Like this is the new character. This is the or at the time it was just the Inquisitor. Like we didn't know there were other Inquisitors. And that character is done so well in Rebels and leaves such an impression for being like the first season villain, a season that people, not that for people who aren't like in love with Rebels, they, season 1 is, generally considered like one of the weakest seasons. To not see very many of those traits carry over to Obi-Wan Kenobi is disappointing. I agree. However, I think Rupert Friend, and you're going to hate me for this, I think he does something. He takes the Inquisitor in a direction here that, yes, feels different from the one in Rebels, but I still really like it. Like, they're both the same character, but yet they're different in versions of it. But I don't know. There was something that listen. There was something just so like, I don't know, something so that made me so like weirdly joyful, or something so entertaining in part 5 when he showed up and was like, what is it? Revenge does wonders for the will to live. And I was like, dude, I love this. I love like the mustache twirling British Inquisitor. It's not the one in Rebels, but that's okay. I enjoyed it. And like I said earlier, looking for things to enjoy.
Parks, I'm telling you, if this was a different character, you'd be mad. It's just like, imagine if
it was Ahsoka, I would be mad.
Yeah, imagine if in the Ahsoka show, it's just like completely different Ahsoka. Like Rosario Dawson never watched the Clone Wars, but for some reason with the Grand Inquisitor, it's okay. Like I'm not saying that the Grand Inquisitor is like a bad character in the show. I'm just saying that character already exists, and you're not that character. So what's the point of like, oh my god, it just annoys the hell out of me.
I'll give my take here. I think I like Rupert Friend's performance, but as Ari, I'm just like, oh man, like it just feels so out of place. And you know what? I will give it to Fifth Brother, because I actually thought, some of the Inquisitor stuff I just thought was silly. But in terms of Fifth Brother, I thought he looks funky already with his face and everything. But you know what? I gotta give it to the Fifth Brother. I wish we saw him in the finale, as I think people have been saying. But I really like the Fifth Brother as well. I like the Fifth Brother. But Granny, come on, Quizzy. I'm just like, oh man, like he just made such an impact on me in Rebel season 1, where I wish he was as the character here.
Also, Parks, it's funny what you said about season 1, because mine and Mike's both our favorite season of Rebels is season 1.
I knew.
But as you said, people who
so he did it on purpose. He said that on purpose.
Yeah.
You want to start an argument. He came in here with a Jedi robe, but really it's a Sith robe. He came in with an argument.
It's like an itch. You can't resist.
Oh no!
I'm telling you that. So Parks, me and Mike were in the premiere, as I'm sure you've heard.
Yeah.
And we as soon as the show opened, I was like, oh, this show is going to be terrible, because
it hit you right away with the Inquisitor.
No, it didn't. It was I'm telling you, the Grand Inquisitor's coming, like that ugly shot of his like weird egghead, just oh my god, so off-putting. Just the way he acted. Like Reva, I thought was cool in the scene, but I had a terrible feeling about the show straight away. Episode 1 is actually like either my favorite or second favorite episode, but that
I would agree.
Immediately, I was just like, oh no. But anyway, we should talk more about the finale, because Grand Inquisitor barely actually played a role in this. But man, sorry, I need to scroll through my notes. What did you think of the like general fan service, Parks? Like, obviously, Hello There, we kind of touched on. Liam Neeson, kind of touched on, but Ian McDermott was in the show. Me and Mike were saying probably our favorite scene from the episode was when Leia says, "Will I ever see you again?" All that stuff. Did you think that was like executed in, I don't know, like a way that didn't make you just roll your eyes? But yeah, how'd you feel about it?
It was fine. I'd say, like, yeah, I think this show on the whole, and the finale, of course, as well, I think had a good balance of fan service where it's like, you're in the Star Wars universe, you're telling a story with these big characters, you have to like reference some things, you have to bring up some things, and you have to know what things to reference. For example, there wasn't a single Ahsoka reference unless you squint, and that is totally fine. I know some people were going into this show like being like, oh man, like what if he's got to mention Ahsoka somewhere, or what if Obi-Wan's like, man, I wonder what Ahsoka thinks about this. That would have been out of place because like this is episode 3.5. I love the Clone Wars. I love Rebels. Ahsoka's my favorite character.
Do you like the Clone Wars, Parks?
Do I like the Clone Wars? Do I like the Clone
Let's
Wars?
ask the chat. Let's ask the chat.
No, I don't like the Clone Wars. No. But like they understood like what to bring in, and stuff like the Quinlan Vos reference. I thought, hey, great. Quinlan Vos, kind of like a fringe Star Wars character. Like unless you're into the lore, unless you've seen the Clone Wars, unless you've read Dark Disciple, and he's fantastic in all those things. And same thing with like the Terra Sanube, in part 4, and little lines of dialogue here and there, that are obviously callbacks or call forwards to stuff that they say in the original trilogy. I know one that stood out to me in this episode was little Luke saying, "I'm not afraid," and almost he had to be directed exactly the same to say it like. When he's talking to Yoda in Return of the Jedi, and he tells him he's not afraid, and Yoda's like, "You will be," all that. Or was that Empire Strikes Back? That's Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, I you have to have those little connections and moments, and especially visually, because it's those are the little tethers that sort of tie the universe together. And even if you are telling a Star Wars story, you're telling a story that's subservient to a much bigger Star Wars story, which would be the films. So you have to like pay homage to it in some way. Palpatine showing up, kind of unnecessary, but it didn't detract from anything. They didn't make Vader call him up constantly, which is fine. And I hate to say like, oh, I'm worried about what fan service does or doesn't show up, but after Book of Boba Fett, we're all like ready for like just anything to be thrown at us. But
yeah,
Parks, if I can, let me add this
Yes.
point to you with the Palpatine thing, because I felt the same way until we got that Qui-Gon scene, because I'm like, and actually Shane up in here, he brought up in the chat earlier, was saying it felt out of place to see Vader sitting down on the throne and while Palpatine was on hologram, because he usually kneels. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that was interesting. It would have been cool to see Vader kneeling as we always seen him.
I really liked that Palpatine and Qui-Gon were in the end, because it showed the opposite.
That's what I was about to say.
Oh, you
That
were going
is
to
a
say,
good
sorry.
point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You couldn't have
you
one
going with it
without
then.
the other.
Yeah.
It like balanced things out for me, because if you have Vader talking to his master and then you have Qui-Gon talking to his master, perfect balance. I thought it was great, and I thought it was like Qui-Gon didn't feel like a needless cameo, nor did Palpatine feel like a needless cameo at the end. Like they kind of like just they like supported the characters, and I wish that's what the whole series really was like. As much as this was Obi-Wan series, I wish this was Vader's series as well, but we didn't really get that.
The last like 10 minutes of this episode is like everything I want the series to be, from the music to the characters, like everything. I still like the series as a whole, but I'm like, that was really what would have sort of like blown me away. And I don't know, it's is what it is. But
I agree. Yeah.
So of course when we first started to hear about this series, there was all this talk about the rematch of the century, and well, it was not. But
is that a real quote?
Yeah,
Yes.
Kathleen Kennedy said this is going to be the rematch of the century.
That is going down right next to Book of Boba Fett is all killer, no filler.
That's a great point.
That is going down right. No, no disrespect to anyone who enjoyed the duel, but that's overselling it. Just a hair.
Well, I'm curious because obviously, Parks, you're a big animation guy. What do you think of the fact that like they didn't like steal the idea from Rebels or anything, but the concept of Vader having his mask like sort of taken off like that.
It's been done before.
It's been done before. What do you think of that? And how do you think, like, would you compare them, or, and I guess, what do you just think of that whole sequence, Hayden Christensen with that voice modulation and stuff?
That's one of those moments where I really like that moment a lot. The voice modulation, it's cool. You know, it was cool in Rebels hearing Matt Lanter for a bit. I probably freaked out more there than I did here, kind of because I knew this was coming. It's like, you got Hayden, you got to find a way to, like, you know, bring him out of Vader in some way. And, you know, they found different opportunities to do that, of course, with the flashbacks and you know, seeing this guy in the tank and everything. But also, that was a moment that sort of just affirmed to me, you know, why, like, I didn't really care why ultimately this wasn't like a show for me, or why I didn't really care too much about it, because you kind of have to have that moment, you know, like you have to, for Obi-Wan to, like, move on. It's the same lesson Ahsoka learns too, is Ahsoka goes into that fight with Vader and Twilight Apprentice being like, I have to defeat this guy, I have to stop him, you know, and only when she sees the humanity underneath, actually has to look it dead in the eye instead of disassociating it in her brain, when she realizes, like, that's a person, you know, and I can't kill this thing. In fact, you know, I have to do the right thing in this situation, which I think you can interpret in different ways. I've always interpreted as Ahsoka is giving her life in the hopes of maybe, you know, she might be able to save these people, but, you know, the Kanan and Ezra, but more so, you know, if she goes down with Vader, she'll have gone down for the right reason. And I think similarly here, you know, you need that character beat with Obi-Wan, where he's trying to defeat this thing he created, in almost the same way of someone trying to squash the guilt they have and being like, I have to kill the guilt. I think a great sort of Star Wars connection to this would be Kylo Ren being like, it's the quote everyone loves. It's about the past. Kill it if you have to.
Let the past die.
Yeah, let the past die. Kill if you have to. Which is not, you know, is not a Jedi mindset ultimately.
Exactly.
And so I really liked that was like the thing for Obi-Wan to learn, like, you know, I can't just destroy this thing. This is a person. He made a choice. I have to go my separate way, you know, and it's a hard lesson, but it's a good one. And Ewan McGregor's performance in that moment, fantastic. The makeup, what they did with Hayden's face there, fantastic. I would love to see Hayden Christensen, you know, if he makes a return to acting after this, I'd love to see him in a horror movie. Just the way his eyebrow and his eye kind of, I don't know, there's just something so, like, just something so disturbing about, like, this vacant zombie-like expression on his face. Where there's a person in there somehow, you know. So yes, it came from Rebels, and again, that's another thing where I'm just like, I feel like you had to have that moment. And I've seen some things on Twitter where people mentioned, like, Ahsoka, you know, revealed one side of the face, Obi-Wan revealed the other. Right. Luke is the only person who could bring the man out. That's cool. That's great. But yeah, like, ultimately it's a moment that for me is going to stand in the shadow of a really perfectly directed, perfectly executed, you know, moment from Rebels. Rebels bias aside, like, you look at the scene in animation from a directing standpoint, you look at the camera work, you look at everything building up to it, the music, it's masterful. And I feel like I can't exactly say all the same things here, you know. So that's but that, again, that's just my opinion. Otherwise, it was a good moment.
I love the way I'll give it to some of the cinematography in this scene. You know, I've also not been a fan of the way they've done things in this show with all the shaky cam stuff too. Has been very annoying, and they use it for you know, if they only use it for Vader when he was walking in that one episode going up to Reva, it's like, like, that just brings out the ferocity of the scene and of the totally, like, seriousness, and, like, it's just things are about to happen, right? But then when you use it when Obi-Wan's walking across the base or something, it's just like, why are you doing that right now? It's unneeded. Or when
it becomes a lazy decision at that point, or it comes across as
It's
that.
like, oh, Vader's walking.
If they only used it for Vader, that would.
And I just want to add really quickly,
yes,
that I know some people really loved the duel in Part 3 and really loved the duel here, but for me, as someone who really cares about like the imagery in Star Wars movies and just in any story, in the same way that when you think about a memory you have and you think about what you saw and what you heard, and that comprises the memory, like that's what it will live on as. When you think of a moment in a Star Wars movie that sticks with you, I always see the shot, I always hear the music, the sound, whatever. And all I remember about these fights is just like the camera moving, really quickly and a lot of quick cuts. And I like, again, I don't want to be like overly cynical about it. I think the technical execution of it kind of ruined both of fights for me. And I'm sure the choreography within was really, really good. Really solid.
I was gonna say that was what held the fight sequences up, was the choreography, because without that, it would have felt a little bit like a jumbled mess. But I think Ewan and Hayden, that was like something they were just so keen to like get back to doing, is like there's that cool fight scene that they talk ad nauseum about, like preparing for Revenge of the Sith and the Battle of the Heroes and all that. But something that I just am reminded of by you guys talking about like the Parks, you're saying like the shot that you remember and stuff. I would say there was close to no like shot that I would like post on Instagram and be like, oh, look at this beautiful thing. However, I thought the final shot of the series was beautiful, like with Obi-Wan walking into the like the Dune Sea and stuff. So I thought that was real nice. But Mike, do you want to read out a few comments, because we've had a few come through?
Yes. Let's go to Leo here, our friend. Leo says, season 2 of Obi-Wan surely is coming. There's no way they teased and made Qui-Gon appear like that. It felt so weird and rushed, like they filmed the finale and suddenly forgot about Qui-Gon on post-production. Let's go with Ari here. What do you think about this?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because they've just couldn't have harped on more about how, oh, this is a limited series. But then it feels like within the last like month or two, they've stopped saying that, which makes me think, oh no, because I feel very strongly about Ewan McGregor staying in Star Wars and keep continuing to play Obi-Wan. However, I also feel strongly about not having a season 2, because I don't know. And it's not about, oh, well, they said it was a limited series, so it has to be. It's not about that. I don't really want them to continue the story like this. I feel like they had one chance to tell this Obi-Wan story, and they did all right with it, but that was their chance. They had it, and now it's like, if they want to tell more stories, I don't think it should be through this medium. So, yeah. Were you going to say something, Parks?
I was just going to say, like, forgive me, I'm not going to be able to name all the screenwriters. Joby Harold, Andrew Stanton, and there was one other person. Like, when you set out to tell a story, like, and if it's pitched as a limited series, all that, I'd like to think that the writers, Deborah Chow included, being executive producer, director on the show, had the intentions in mind for this to be a one-off story. In other words, like, if you're a storyteller and you have something to say, you're taking this as your opportunity to say that thing. This is a story that's designed to be self-contained. If you go ahead and go, well, the ratings are pretty good, let's do season 2.
Yeah,
for me, that's where I'm like, but they, because I don't know, not that you can't tell another story with intent and purpose and meaning, and one that utilizes it well. But if again, like you said, if this was like, if they went into this assignment knowing that this was their only Obi-Wan story and this is what they told, I don't know, like it doesn't make me too excited about the prospect of these storytellers going into the next season and being like, well, I guess we'll do another one. It to me, it just feels
it's unnatural.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like yeah.
Richard, I love this comment. Sorry, I just have to say, I was really hoping to see Chris use the helicopters, because that's such like a thing that at the time, like when Twilight the Apprentice came out, everyone was like, "Oh, this is so dumb. This doesn't make sense." Then over time, people just start to love it because it's so stupid.
Didn't Ruber Friend like make a joke about that?
I doubt it, because he didn't watch the bloody
Vaguely
show.
Remember. Surely he's aware of it, though. Surely.
I'm pretty sure one of them made a joke about it, and everyone was like, "Oh, we're gonna see it in the finale." I saw some discourse on Twitter about it. And
did you have something to say about the season 2 thing, Mike?
No.
Oh, where are you going? Fair
Absolutely
enough.
not.
I mean, it's just the same as you guys. Like, I remember posting. All I say was my personal experience with the story. I remember posting about they announcing that's going to be a limited series, but they were also Kathleen Kennedy was like, well, and Deborah Chow, more so Deborah Chow was like, if we have a story, then we'll do it. But we're just, we're keeping an open mind, but we're really doing a limited series.
Yeah.
I remember I posted that and being like, let's keep it. I was like, let's keep it a limited series because I was thinking of more of the character study that, like as you mentioned earlier, that we all thought we were going to get. And so people then were mad in the comments. Is like, but what if there's a story to tell? It's like, I don't think that's going to be the case because I think it's out of Deborah Chow's control. It's out of the plan. I think this series premiere ended up being like Disney Plus's like biggest debut on their platform, original debut. So it's like the Disney executives are gonna get in there and be like, we're gonna order another season of this. We're gonna get that Disney Plus bank rolling. So for me, I hate when that happens. So yeah, I'm just like, nope. It's what's gonna happen. And now they're singing a different tune. You have Kathleen Kennedy out in the press either yesterday or the day before saying like, oh, hey, we're gonna, it's what the fans want, and we're gonna, we're always receptive to what the fans are saying and stuff like that. And it's like, obviously not, because a lot of us were saying like we wanted more. Like if you were really listening to us, like this series would have been so different. But it's I would not be surprised if season 2 was announced like later this year. So there's that.
Definitely. I'm going to rapid fire through some of these comments so we can address them. But Richard also says, to be honest, was really disappointed about the Inquisitors, like we were talking about. Shane says, I'm so disappointed Luke Skywalker didn't die at the end of the leakers lied to us. Yeah, I don't know if those reports were ironic or what was going on, but that was ridiculous. I don't know what that was all about.
If the leak was based on the shot of Reva carrying Luke's body, I guess it could be interpreted that way.
Wait,
in the show,
no, Parks.
This is true.
Luke Skywalker's gonna die in the Obi-Wan show. You're legitimizing that theory.
I'm legitimizing it because if someone saw that frame, they would think that and go, "Oh my god, this show is going." This show is like Shane, a what if?
I think Shane's being ironic here because I think there's some laughter in the chat here. So I think he's being ironic.
Right.
No, there was literal reports that came out that said that. Like, I'm not joking. I don't know if the reports were ironic, but that was a real report that was dropped saying that during the
That's what I'm saying. Like, the reason that was probably reported is because the leakers saw that frame or saw that image.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know how, but he's dead.
Yeah. Taylor addressing our chat from before. Isn't that also the director's or higher-ups' job to make sure the actors are portraying the characters correctly, even if they did or did not study up ahead of time? True, and a good point. However, it's still like he didn't do his end of the bargain is what I'm saying. So, yeah, it is. Me and Mike even said Deborah Chow could have done a better job overseeing the whole thing, making sure, all the eyes.
But she was the one that told him not to, apparently. She's the one that told him not to watch it.
No. He said that he didn't want to because he wanted like his own interpretation or whatever.
Ruber said that the creators had told him not to watch it. I don't know who those creators were.
He did not say that.
Let me look it up.
Because he kept talking about it at Celebration and everything. So anyway, but point is, like, okay, if the creators have told him, then that's clearly not his issue. But I feel like the creators, they didn't do their end of telling him, and he didn't do his end by doing his own extra stuff, going, above and beyond and not doing the bare minimum. So, it's not a year 8 maths test. You're in a Star Wars series. Like, you need to do more than the bare minimum. I feel like I don't know. I'm being too harsh on him, but it's frustrating to me as like, a Rebels.
No, I understand.
Mega fan. But
look, here, I'll read you the quote. Myself and Deb Chow and Dave Filoni and all of the guys really wanted to do something fresh that honored and was faithful to the spirit of the character without doing a kind of impression of anybody else's interpretation.
Myself is what I'm hearing. But also, that doesn't say,
all right, let me lend you a thought.
Don't go and watch the show.
All right, let me lend you a thought that'll make you turn even more red.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni, a man who is already known for breaking canon with Kanan appearing in
mate, I'm
Bad
sorry,
Batch.
but that's different. That's with his comics.
And he goes, you know what? I also would like to change my mind about the Grand Inquisitor.
Dude, go back to Rebels when we see Vader unmasked. He put the eyebrow there on purpose when Vader doesn't have any eyebrows.
Yeah, but that's not his own show. He does that with the movies all the time. He retconned Rex into Return of the Jedi. He's always like, "Oh, don't touch my characters," all that stuff. If you touch my characters, I'll retcon it
He
later.
just retconned Obi-Wan now, and he retconned Return of the Jedi because his version of Vader has an eyebrow.
Okay, that's just ridiculous. That's just ludicrous. An eyebrow is a completely different level of just.
We
like
all know
portraying a
Anakin
brand new
takes
character.
forever to grow any hair on his body. You know,
Literally.
Anyway, I
His
still
hair takes years
just
to grow.
don't buy into like, oh, he didn't like was told, mate. You can go and watch a show. It's pretty easy.
But you agree though, if let's say Deb Chow came to you and you were gonna play who should already play in the Star Wars universe part?
The Grand Inquisitor.
The Grand Inquisitor. Let's say she asked you and she was like, we don't really want you to do an impression of Jason Isaacs, because if we wanted you to do an impression, we would just go get Jason Isaacs. We want you to do your own thing. Like I wouldn't, if someone told me that, I wouldn't go watch Rebels. I'd be like, that's what they're telling me. All right, I'm gonna do my assignment.
Yeah, I would blame Rupert Friend for as little of it as possible. I think he's an actor who came in and did the job. The greater fault lies with the creative decisions underlying that.
Yeah,
which
like
it's
valid. I don't know. I still just am just completely bad. Like, let's be honest, we don't know like exactly what happened behind the scenes. We don't know like what was said. But at the end of the day, I just can't help but think that you're playing a character that already exists, and you're not doing like all the research you can. It's bizarre to me. But anyways, that is what it is. We need to stop talking about the Grand Inquisitor because he was in like 1 minute of this episode. But yeah, oh man, there's a lot of chats. I don't know which ones we've read and which one we haven't. Here's one from Ringmaster. They say, I'm a bit late to the party. No, always welcome. While this might sound a bit harsh, much like the CGI, I feel like the writing was rushed. By the way, I don't think that's their fault. Disney Plus seems to be cranking these out.
Yes. 100% agree.
I want to go into that thought, if I may.
Sure, go for it.
Throwing it over to you.
So, I think, like I said earlier, like one of my biggest problems with the show is like the entire technical side of it. And I mean, lots of people have pointed out various things over the last few weeks. Like the show feels cheap. They rely on the volume too much. CGI looks unfinished. Camera work is shaky. And I think a lot of these decisions may or may not have been intentional because a lot of I think people underestimate like how much you can sabotage sort of like the creative process when you're rushing through it. And also, mind you, most of the show was shot, if not all of it, shot during like COVID lockdowns and stuff like that. So I found a lot of the environments in the show to be kind of like for example, a perfect example of today's finale. We saw like one of the first blips we saw from the show, like the earliest bit of concept art we saw was this crazy shot of Obi-Wan and Vader dueling like on this beam with lava shooting. It looked like Mustafar 2.0. There was no moment in the show that came anywhere close to the production design that would be pitched by that image. And when you think about, I know you don't want to harp on the topic, I'm only mentioning it one more time, the Grand Inquisitor's appearance. When you think
let's talk about it for another hour. I'm happy to. I've got plenty to say about it.
The Grand Inquisitor debate. No, but you think about stuff like that. I've heard complaints, and I don't necessarily agree with these, but maybe I'm not looking closely enough. I've heard people complain about some of the like prosthetics and alien costumes like look a little more like less believable than usual, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's his name, Freck in part 3 was probably like the best one. But
shout out to Freck.
Yeah, dude, that guy was great. But generally speaking, in part 5, like that entire, let's just call it the Rebel base. I don't know what you guys were calling it last week. Like there's a shot where Revo walks out and you see all the stormtroopers lined up, and I'm just like, man, we are so obviously on a set right now. Like, they're like they've completely broken the funky Freck for sure. They've completely broken the illusion for me a little bit. And and then the camera work too, being, like mostly heavily reliant on shaky cam. If you had time to do storyboards and you had time to sort of carefully conceive moments and frames, as someone like Dave Filoni does in animation or, whatever the case may be, you would get a lot more things that feel intentional and like deliberate. But I guess my whole point in saying all this is I would agree. I think the show was rushed, and that there might have been grander plans for it, but with maybe there were more plans to shoot on location than what they did, but they ended up shoot probably all of it on the volume and maybe a little bit on backlots and stuff. And
Yeah.
again, I don't know that for sure, but I feel like that ultimately hurt the show. And I don't know what the timeline would be for the writing, but if I'm not like mistaken, I remember I think it was beginning of 2020 or 2021. It had to be beginning of 2020 because 2021 had been too close. They had scripts for the show, but they pushed it back because they wanted to do rewrites and they wanted to shorten the show. I think I remember reading that. And I can only imagine, like, at that point, like, if maybe they were cutting into their time that they already had, like, that they no longer had to write to do that, so they had to rush through this rewrite. I don't know. It just, when I think about the things that don't work for me in the show, to me, they all feel like if you had time, again, to do previs, if you had time to do storyboards, if you had time to build sets, if you had the time to go on location and you didn't have COVID restrictions getting in the middle of that, if you had more time to give to the VFX artists, I feel like a lot of the stuff would be better, despite being a 6-episode show.
I mean, the pandemic aspect of it has been brought up here, and I've seen a lot of people say Stranger Things went through the same thing. And Parks, I know you're a big Stranger Things fan as well, and it's like they went through the same thing, but like, which show are we talking? Like, it's like and it was hard for me because while I was binging Stranger Things season 4, I was going to watch a new episode of Kenobi, and it was like I was dumbstruck. I was like, how is this like so good on Netflix? And then you have a Star Wars product on Disney Plus, Disney, like the #1 company in the world, and it looks like this. And so it was. I found myself most frustrated. And while yes, the pandemic plays in, I guess it can play an aspect into it. I mean, again, look at Stranger Things and how they were able to do everything and make everything like still a complete finished story. And with Obi-Wan, and I don't even blame the crew at all. I blame more of like the executives at Disney that as Ryan mentioned, that they're just trying to pump everything out as much as they can because they're juggling too many apples right now. I mean, same with Marvel. Like it's kind of like all the ILM people are working on Marvel stuff, Star Wars stuff. So like everyone's working on something. And usually borrows the Skywalker sound guys in their studio to do the sound effects for their movies and shows. So it's like they're using up a lot of Lucasfilm's resources as well. So yeah, I'm just I feel for the crew. I feel for the production people, but it's like, dang, it's very frustrating when we get other good shows out there that take their time. Because I don't even blame Natalie Holt for the score, because I'm sure the way Lucasfilm's track record has been with getting composers for the films, I'm sure she was only like, after the show was announced, she still wasn't a part of it, because actually Star Wars editor was making this this claim to me, or saying this. He was saying that like they still would not announce the composer when they were asked. They just wouldn't. And usually it's like something like that's not that, I don't know, that they see that big. And so they waited, like they took their time with Natalie Holt. And she probably, as you know, Michael Giacchino, he took like 6 weeks to make the soundtrack for Rogue One. And that turned out to be a banger. But this, I'm sure it was the same amount of time. It should have left in the oven a little bit longer, So I feel like same with this whole series. But anyways, there's still a lot to love from the series. But yeah.
It's an important point you raise, Mike. Like, I mean, and it's probably hypocritical me saying this, how much I've been ragging on Rupert Friend, but like, I guess a lot of the decisions or a lot of the things that we're like iffy on, or just like made the show, less enjoyable for us, is like, not necessarily like, we don't want to be like scapegoating people. Like, oh, the writing was bad, Deborah Chow, whatever. Not that we're doing that, but you know what I'm saying? But just on the production thing, I think I vaguely talked about this on the editorial today, but honestly, I actually wasn't annoyed by it at all. And this is why I agree it wasn't good. But let me tell you something. The Book of Boba Fett was terrible as well. Like, I'm sorry, but for a Star Wars TV show, I thought the production quality was shocking. And I brought it up in the podcast. I was telling everyone, I can see the volume right now. I can see it moving in the background. No one seemed to be talking about it. So when
It's-
Obi-Wan came
yeah.
around, it's just what I expected, and I expected it to be a little better. I'm not gonna lie, but so for me, Book of Boba Fett was when I felt like the production quality was like really jarring, and for this, I was just like, that's just what Star Wars TV seems to look like, which isn't ideal, but it comes back to this point of this series should have been a movie, because the Book of Boba Fett shouldn't have been a movie. I don't think Boba Fett needed a movie. Like, that story was, I think, suited the series medium, but this show is like the way they want to tell this story. I think the medium that would, be perfect for it is a film, and I think people would show up for an Obi-Wan film. Like, I honestly have a feeling Ewan McGregor was potentially quite disappointed when he found out that this wasn't going to be a movie, because it would have been great. This would have been like the perfect return for, like, Star Wars on the big screen, 2022 Obi-Wan movie. Like, how awesome would that have been? Not in just that sense, but then also, like, the production quality would have been amazing. The budget for Solo was $300 million. Like, imagine what they could have done. Oh my God.
Twice.
And exactly. So like, I heard people talking about that earlier in the series, and I didn't really agree. But now that it's finished, I completely agree. This should have been a movie. I don't care if it went for 3.5 hours. It should have been a movie. So
I will say,
you can just cut out part 4 and then bang, that's a movie right there.
I will say, I totally agree with you.
I'm joking about part 4. It's good, but
I agree.
If
you
you have to
about
cut something, just a hypothetical.
Part 4, No, I agree with you. I think this should have been a movie. What's still shocking to me, though, is they start out as a movie, but then Disney Plus came calling.
Yeah.
Was
this
like,
hey, was meant to be a movie.
But you see, I have to bite the bullet on this one, just because if they continued making this a movie, Hayden Christensen was never involved. So it's like,
I disagree.
What do you mean? So you'd rather not have Hayden Christensen involved at all?
No, I don't think Hayden Christensen doesn't get involved. I think the story changes, and the fact that there was a part they had to change the story slightly when they changed the medium, but I think they still would have continued developing the way they wanted to. I think they could have cut Rivera out. I think they could have cut part 4 out. I think they could have found the right story and balanced it well. So I don't think Hayden Christensen wouldn't have been a part of it if it was a movie.
I'm just saying, going off from what I read, and they started out as a movie, and Hayden Christensen was nowhere near that production or in the script. Until then, the story expanded. Then that's when they added Hayden Christensen. So I'm just kind of like, which one do I want? So kind of there. Tell us in the chat, movie or series? I mean, so you think last minute they would have added Hayden Christensen in there?
I don't think it would have been last minute. I think they had plenty of time, and that was the natural progression of where their writing was going, and they would have done it. It wasn't done.
Obi-Wan has been in the works.
They didn't write a whole movie and then just go, nah, it's done.
Obi-Wan itself, like, the movie has been in pre-production for a while now. Like,
but they didn't just write a script and go, this is done. And then they didn't go, oh, well, it's a movie, it's a series, we have to completely change it. We'll add a whole other character, a whole other overarching villain.
But he was just not in it. That's the thing.
How do you know that? How do you know he wasn't in it?
Realistically, probably how it is that there was probably someone working on a script for a good bit of time when it was a movie, and then when they decided they wanted it to be a show, they took what was there and maybe took some parts of it, left out some parts of it, and made the show they wanted to make. And then that probably went through a couple of rewrites and a credit I'm always keen to look out for when I watch like anything Star Wars is written by, and then there's another credit that says story by, and that's who came up with it originally. And I again, like, should have had the screenwriters' names pulled up, but I really wonder if someone on there has a credit who came up with the story originally for the movie and got the credit here for not maybe working on the show so much, or maybe they were, I don't know, just some food for thought. But and to be clear, like, with all this, like, we don't know if it was rushed. We don't know, like, I mean, we
Right.
you guys know that it was originally a movie and then it became a show. And we know as far in as Lucasfilm has revealed, and just going off of previous Star Wars productions like Book of Boba Fett, which, as you pointed out, Ari, like, you could see the volume. But that can be separated, like those sort of like presumptions with production. You can still you can still see a good story in here, and there are still lots of things to enjoy about the show, regardless of that. Like, as someone who came in negative, like, there's a lot of really great positive aspects about the show that were, for the most part, sort of like immune to, like, if the show was rushed, that, like, and I think the biggest thing you can always look to is the actors who show up on set every day. Ewan McGregor, what's her Vivian Lyra Blair, is that her name, who plays Leia?
Little Leia.
Little Leia.
Yeah.
Moses Ingram, Hayden Christensen, who show up on day and are like, I'm gonna give this character my all. That part, I'm sure they had time to work on that.
Yeah.
But while we are here and while we're able to be critical of the other aspects of the show that we didn't appreciate, like, to me, like, yeah, it feels like a lot of it, like, if it had more time to stew, could have been really good. But
I will say,
I don't know.
Hopefully, because I'm sure they will do this. Hopefully, they do a Disney gallery, and then they explain the whole saga of this project, and then we can see for ourselves what truly was the case. But I think just to add to, like, why I think this show should have been a movie is, like, the overarching story I thought was fantastic. Like, where Obi-Wan started and ended, I really liked. Like, he was, sad and miserable. He lost his best friend in, like, one of the worst ways possible, and then by the end he's, like, sort of overcome it, and then there was, like, really, like, there was some decent stuff in the middle in the journey of how he got there, but I just think some of the execution wasn't quite right. And I just think if this got treated like a movie, potentially that could have changed. I'm not saying, if it was a movie, it definitely would have been better, but I just think, like, there was stronger potential for this to be executed properly in the form of a movie, I would say.
Yeah. I was telling Ari earlier that I really love the first episode, and I really like this finale, and I just feel like I think you got the nice ends of a sandwich, the buns toasted, but just everything in the middle needs a little bit more cooking. But I still will say I still very much like episode 2 and 3. And I mean, you get Obi-Wan's character going from being sulking in the shadows to coming out he even gets a new, like, like a new cloak design, and it's like you could feel that, like, white energy coming off him of entering a new phase in his life and stuff. And I totally love that. And I think it's a lesson and a story that people can relate to now. Like, I mean, people were in the pandemic, lockdown, having all these thoughts and locked in their rooms and whatnot, and now it's starting to feel like we're turning a leaf. We're all coming out of that cave. So I absolutely love what they did with Obi-Wan. And like I said on our little reaction review earlier, I did cry at the end. I love, Obi-Wan's, I mean, also personal reasons, but just having Obi-Wan, his ex-best friend, like, he's there with his kids, and it's just like, like, we've all seen that, like, fan art of Obi-Wan playing around with Luke and Leia, and also Ahsoka's in the room. I mean, I feel like we got that. It was like, when Owen was like, hey, do you want to meet him? I was like, oh yes, like, let's get this. And as Parks, we're talking, good moment. And I just want to say the hello there, perfectly timed. It was just, it was Luke. Everything came full circle. Loved it.
Mike, when we were talking, you were saying how much you loved, like, just the Alderaan stuff, and you thought that was the show, like, at its peak. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, because we've been ragging on the production and stuff like that. But literally, when we went to Alderaan, for a second, I had to, like, remind myself during the premiere. I was like, this is a show. This isn't a movie. I think that's the only time I did that during the whole entire series, was when we were on Alderaan. We get there. I mean, it just looks absolutely visually beautiful. And then the actors as well. The actress for Brea Organa, amazing. I literally thought we were watching a movie. Same with Jimmy Smits. I don't know if because his awesome work in Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One had anything to do with it, or he's just an awesome actor. Dude, it's Jimmy Smits. Like, I absolutely every time he came on camera, I would just smile. Even though if he was pleading for Obi-Wan, I was just like, I'm smiling because it's Jimmy Smits. So I absolutely
I was gonna say really quickly, one moment that really got me, like, when I was watching earlier, was when him and Obi-Wan were hugging, and I was like, man, something feels so right about.
I know. Like,
I felt this is like I'm feeling kind of like what the sort of prequel generation is like feeling. I think, like, feels really. It just felt really nice.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So just to wrap up that thought, I literally thought that the show's best was literally on Alderaan. So when we came back there, And as you said, the hug and everything, I was like, yep, I just ate up all the Alderaan stuff. And I know people, they made jokes about Leia running in the forest, and it was kind of like a Home Alone setup where the thugs were trying to get. But I was like, that's what you guys are complaining about. So, and I even thought the dialogue there was on Alderaan was really good. I mean, you had the whole conversation with Bayo and talking to kneeling and talking to Leia, like, you are my daughter and stuff like that. I was like, oh man, like that just pulled the heartstrings. So I thought that was about to rip on my heart. But yeah, and even at the end with you said the Obi-Wan hug and Obi-Wan talking to Leia and talking like, I wish I could tell you more. It's okay. Like, oh,
everything
man,
about the parents was so sweet and
so good.
My maybe this is like it's definitely top 3 moments of the series when Leia says, "Will I ever see you again?" I just just die for that scene in Phantom Menace so much, and I don't know if it was even intent because like for a second there, like for a split second, I was like, oh, why do I just love that line so much? And I was like, oh, I've already done that in Star Wars, but like it felt so perfect and like so right coming from Anakin's child as well, like. Oh, just everything about it just had me like.
I love what he says there about like what he got, what she got from her mother and what she got from her father.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And I will say, like, you won't get onto the topic obviously, but someone who
the Grand Inquisitor.
The Grand Inquisitor, someone who loves the Grand Inquisitor in the show. No, just kidding.
God.
So you hate him.
As someone who has like sort of a difficult relationship with their parents, like I think there's just something really powerful about that moment and about like sort of the greater sort of themes of Star Wars as a whole about like the connection between father, son, mother, daughter, all that stuff. In that, your father can be a terrible person, like a deplorable person, but there's still good in them. There's good in everybody, and you might, wonder if some of that bad has passed on to you. I mean, that's something that Luke worries about. That's something that Rey worries about with, being a Palpatine and all that. So for him to go to Leia and be like, you have gifts from both of them, use it. Very powerful moment. And, you can, and I just, love how much stuff like that adds to sort of, our like approach to Leia then in the later films, where you can see Leia absolutely no fear in her eyes when she's talking to Vader in A New Hope, and absolutely no fear talking to Tarkin. And as well, one connection, I don't know if you probably came across this over the last few weeks. Someone mentioned at some point that Leia ends up naming her son Ben. Yeah, and there's a line back in episode 2 where part 2 where she's like, she says something like, "What Jedi's named Ben?" And when I heard that made me smile because it's like, oh, man, like I already know this is going to leave like a really big impact on her, and I'm glad like they took all the time to have those moments. That relation between Obi-Wan and Leia is the heart of the show, and it works so well.
Yes.
I think it works better than any other character relationship in that show.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. No, great points. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. But I just want to add to that parents thing because I thought that was just such a great point. Like the way it's like, you're Anakin. Well, obviously it doesn't say Anakin, but it's like, he was a passionate person. He was this and this, and like I can see all those good qualities in you. Like I'm sort of just repeating what you said, but I just love.
It's great.
Like it was,
chills.
Great. Right after having like just a very like surreal encounter with the man too, like realizing that
and still saying it.
Like Anakin hasn't been victimized by anything. Obi-Wan didn't create him. Anakin chose that. He made that choice regardless of the gifts that are in him, and that is again such a crucial part of Star Wars, such a crucial part of Vader. It's what we see in the Clone Wars, that Anakin is capable of doing amazing things. He's also capable of doing horrible things because that's the choice he makes. All of that, like I said, like when we started, like Deborah Chow gets Star Wars, and that's such a powerful like confirmation of that in that moment.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I do love that it just I don't know when we really need a timeline of this whole production and its timeline and stuff like that. But they apparently they had also rewrites like a couple of years ago to deal with it's just rumored that the reason those rewrites happened was to make the series lighter because apparently it was like really dark and stuff like that. You heard about that too? So I don't
I was trying to remember what the original report said. I remember reading it like when it happened, and I was like, this show's never coming out.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but obviously it came out. But I mean, man, as you were saying though, the heart of the series is really Obi-Wan and Leia, and I loved, there was a point in the series where both Ari and I think it was episode 4, where I was like, we don't want you in here, little Leia. But then at least for me, by the end of the episode, I was like, oh my God, you are.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
you were absolutely vital to this series, and look at how it all wrapped up at the end, where Obi-Wan was like, Bail Organa was like, "Oh, we can never repay you," and he looks back, it's like she already did, and it's like, oh, like he was just as important to her character as she was to his, and that's what I absolutely loved. I'm like, oh man, it just wasn't like, hey, let's make a Mando and Grogu thing here, and not that that's not an important relationship, and not that they don't help each other out. But definitely didn't feel like they were just trying to cater to that type of audience, to those people who watch Mandalorian for Baby Yoda. Yeah. They were definitely doing something here with the characters. So yeah, at the end of the day, I look at this series like that hopeful message at the end. And I've talked about my experience with anxiety before. That moment of Obi-Wan walking out and visiting and making kind of amends with Owen and being like, yeah, I'm going to keep my distance. I just felt that so much coming out of like, that metaphorical cave and being like, I'm back out there again. So I absolutely loved, I don't know. I mean, yes, there's, things that I can nitpick and harp on about the series that I don't like. But at the end of the day, there's just so many aspects, like the themes, the messaging, that I just absolutely died for. And I'm glad the story was told. And when all's said and done, I'm just like, yeah, I'm glad we got this story. Could it have been, a little bit more polished up? Sure. But I'm still, at the end of the day, like, I will always look back on that Vader and Obi-Wan duel and be like, you know what? Could have been better. Could have, been on a less obscure planet with the same setting as the last one, really. But you know what? I loved the visuals in there. I love when we got that Kylo and Han scene, really, with if you go back to Starkiller Base, like Kylo's face is kind of lit up blue, and then it goes red after he kills Han Solo, as soon as he's like, not so much confused, but he's like set on, it was kind of like foreshadowing of Han's death. And then we got the same thing here, where it was like, it was blue and showing that like kind of confused state. But then when he was like, no, I killed Anakin, and his face was all red, I was like, okay, that was awesome. Like, that was sick. That's when, there's people out there that complain like, oh, I'm not a director, I'm not a producer, why should I care about cinematography and looking at stuff like that? Because of those moments, they totally enhance your experience when you're watching it. And that moment, I didn't think the fight was, rematch of the century, but when I think of those visuals of the red light on Vader's face, and then, or it was blue and then red, I'm like, oh my God, that just hits hard. So yes.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I just want to add quickly, like I love Joel Edgerton in the show, despite how briefly he's here.
So good.
I love how he never sort of like relents in his like disdain for Obi-Wan entirely. Like towards the end, he's like, "You want to talk to the kid?" Like you can see almost like he's like, "All right, fine," which is great to see. You love like when you have that character who's tough on, your main character, and then he's still tough, but he lets up just a little bit. It's great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you were.
And a thought. Sorry, I didn't want to take too long.
You know what? I want to say on that, I guess, to talk about the Uncle Owen stuff, and I guess Aunt Beru.
Yeah, how cool is Aunt Beru?
Dude, oh my God. I was like, finally she does something in anything.
What did she hit Reva with? Didn't she hit her with she hit her with something, right? I'm trying to remember.
I think when she entered the doorway, she just like slapped her or something.
I was like, whoa, like, yeah.
I loved Owen's part where he was cooking flower pots at her. That was great.
I know.
There we go. Yeah.
Something I want to mention about the fight. Sorry, I just reminded of it when you guys are talking about when Obi-Wan lifts up all the rocks. Real random, but I just thought that looked fantastic. And it was one bit why I didn't understand why they were fighting in that field. It felt really just bizarre, and I wasn't really vibing with it. But when they went like into the rocks and they started playing with the environment, you know, like how Mustafa, that fight is so good because of how the environment plays into it. So I was like, finally, like the rocks, even though rocks a little bit lame, but still, I thought it was cool.
No,
and
it goes
in the episode before, Riken or whatever his name, and was like, you know, everyone here is like, every kid in here that can float a rock is, you know, trying to get out or whatever it was. So I was like, rocks, Star Wars.
It goes together. I mean, go back to Last Jedi where Rey's like lifting rocks, and look,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Rocks, Star Wars,
rocks and Star Wars.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, with that dual location, I don't think that location was like a deliberate choice. I think that was like one of those things where maybe they had a location they want to shoot at, maybe they had a more complicated set, but due to time, budget, COVID restrictions, you can't necessarily travel out of state or out of country. It had to be what it ended up being, which was probably just entirely a fight shot in the volume. You know,
yes,
definitely.
Yeah,
I love this comment from Ringmaster. I wonder how many stormtroopers it took to take out, or should we say, roast Owen and Beru in episode 4.
I mean, you got to figure like what happens to them.
Also, they were a lot older.
That's true. That is true. They probably held a good fight, and then some stormtrooper was like, "All right, these guys just won't die.
Yeah,
bring out the flamethrower." Not to romanticize or dramatize their death in any way. I'm just like trying to picture in my head, like, you know, what would like, you know, the stormtrooper commander on the scene. You know, he's got every weapon in Battlefront. What does he bring out? You know.
You know what? I thought about this. You know how Aunt Beru had like hidden stashes of weapons. You know, I could totally see where she was making, you know, that little lettuce or salad for Luke in A New Hope. She probably had one stashed right there behind like the sink or something. Be like going for the stormtroopers, or you know, throwing blue milk at them. Right next to the blue milk, exactly. I don't know. I thought it was. I thought, you know, that's immediately what I thought of. Was like, dang, how many stormtroopers did they have to go through? But
bring on the Beru and Owen spinoff.
Dude, why not? Honestly,
make it like a Western. You know,
Joel
like,
Edgerton is fantastic. I don't know the name of Beru, but she's fantastic as well. Like,
yeah.
She was strangely like Beru. I mean, I guess I've just never thought about Aunt Beru that much, but she was so like, oh, like, well, I wonder why Obi-Wan doesn't like want anything to do with us, Owen. And like when, you know, just pulling out all the guns, I was like, damn, slay, love it. Also another character that I really loved the arc of, whose arc didn't like take over the show, sort of like Revers did, but just was really nicely in there, was Hudja. And I think it really served Obi-Wan's story, was because Hudja was sort of like the beacon of, or like the radar of, how is Obi-Wan going with trust? Because you know, it's more of a Jedi's way to like trust the citizens and whatever it is. And by the end of the show, I just love the natural progression of Obi-Wan being like, promise me you get Leia home, and he's like, I give you my word. And I know that's not much coming from just a random guy, but and Obi-Wan's like, no, that's enough for me. And like, so I thought that character was just really great. I forget the name of the actor, but he's super familiar. I know he's in a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Come on,
he's fantastic. So
I liked him. I think I wanted more of him. You know, like it felt very random to see him pop up, but then in this episode, you see like, oh, okay, I understand. And that is a great thing I hadn't thought of, that he is a radar for like Obi-Wan's trust and representing like that sort of indiscriminate trust towards others. I think the setup for that character is really interesting. He kind of reminded me, there's a great character in the Old Republic multiplayer game called Gus Tano. He's like he's a Mon Calamari who like was a Padawan but dropped out, and he's pretending to be a Jedi, and he's kind of like similarly like a con man kind of, and he actually teams up with the smuggler character in that game, so they're like a really fun combo. So that type of character here, I was like, oh yes, I love like this kind of like, am I a Jedi? I'm not a, you know, like, well, he's, you know, not a Jedi but pretending to be one. I would have liked to see more of him, but he was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Also just want to say, we'll probably wrap up in like 10-15 minutes. So anyone in the chat, if you got questions or anything else you want to say, drop them now. We'll read them out. But yeah, I guess let's go across the board, and I want to hear from both of you your overall rating of this episode and of the series, and just wrap up all your thoughts for us. Keep it to only a few minutes. We don't have all day. Although Parks, you know, if you want to go on for do a
Sorry,
little
Mike.
documentary within
Special
the
treatment.
video.
Yeah,
We can
just
edit that.
do it.
and
You get the
get
special
some
treatment.
clickbait. Nah, but yeah. So rating of the show, rating of the episode, and just wrap up all your thoughts. We'll start with our guest, Parks.
I'd say rating for this episode, I'm thinking 6 out of 10. And for me, like on my scale, like if it's above a 5, it's positive. Like it's a positive takeaway. Once it hits 5, I'm like, I don't really want to revisit this again. Like to me, this show just sort of, or sorry, this episode sort of just represented how my overall feelings on the show pretty well in like a nutshell. Like, some things had good payoff. Some things, as a Star Wars fan, I was like, okay, I'm glad you did that. But as a Star Wars fan as well, I don't think this show and this episode, well, now I'm kind of bleeding the two together, but this episode being the payoff for what ultimately felt like, the last part of a movie, like a 6-part movie, didn't really, like, for me, bring anything new or interesting in the same way, say, something like The Mandalorian, where, you are operating in the same storytelling space. You are capturing Star Wars themes, but you're framing it and delivering it in such a new and different way that as a viewer, even as a Star Wars fan who's, devoted so much time to the universe, the lore, the themes, I'm able to sit there, watch that and go like, man, this has been like a really refreshing, entertaining, engaging, meaningful experience. I can't really say the same thing with this episode and by extension, the show. However, I will say you guys raised a lot of great points about characters to me that ultimately I was going to go negative on this show, but I think I will give the show probably a 6 out of 10 as well, which again, positive. It was going to be lower than that. I came in here ready for this question and thinking like, man, like, I don't think I enjoyed it very much. And I can't harp enough. Like, it's not just that I, am someone who, just pays attention to camera work and music and, I like someone, I'm not like, how do I put it? Like, I could very well be the snob who goes out of their way to be like, well, actually the filmmaking was subpar. But the thing is
Parks,
that
if you become that person, I'm unsubscribing from Artorr.
Oh no.
just you wait. There's a
No.
trajectory in mind. No, I'm
Mandalorian documentary coming out soon.
Got a grand plan.
But no, so whether like that persona aside, like whether or not you realize it, even if you're someone who sits there, watches the show and you go, I'm just here for the story, whether or not you acknowledge it, like all of that stuff, the music, the camera work, the editing, it's part of the story. It's invisible to us as a viewer, especially if we're engaged with what's happening and we're drawn into the story and we're compelled by it. All of those elements are supposed to be invisible if done well. And when they're not done well, they jump out to you. Or even if they don't jump out to you, they what doesn't work and what hasn't worked will no doubt stick with you. Or the that comment threw me off entirely.
That's my goal.
No, that's okay. You're just throwing rocks at me, yeah. Stop.
No, just all the rocks. This is just like the fight. All the rocks coming towards you.
I chose this. But no, like I was saying earlier, like when you think back on the most thrilling roller coaster you've been on, you think about how your eyelids went up. You think about how, oh my God, I'm going to die. You think about every element that you could sense about that experience. Not that, and well, sorry, jumbling all over. They're trying to get the thoughts on the right track here. But, but like with any story, not even a Star Wars story, with any story, the best I could hope for is that the storyteller, the filmmaker, has considered all of those senses of the human experience as well, and has tried to the best of their ability to use the tools of the filmmaking medium to try and create an experience for me, the viewer, that will have the best possible impact it could possibly have on me, whatever that impact is supposed to be. So I go into any story looking for that. And not every story is going to be that, and that's okay, because there's always at least traces of that, or always elements of that. So even in a story like this, where, like the story underneath the characters are meaningful, I'm still looking for all that other technical stuff to be good. I'm still looking for, well-composed frames, moments that feel intentional and deliberate, for a plot that, doesn't just and this is dragging another discussion point entirely, which we won't discuss, throws, puts the characters in a corner and throws snow speeders in at the last moment to rescue them, even though like that makes no sense and they'd have to get past any defenses. R.I.P. Wade. Gone too soon.
Favorite Styles character.
We should have had you on for episode 4, Parks. I think that would have been fun. I think we would have went on longer than the episode did. So that would have been fun.
Probably, yeah. But and here, let me wrap this up. So, in other words, that stuff matters. That stuff matters to me a lot as a viewer. It's the reason The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie. It's the reason Siege of Mandalore is one of my favorite pieces of media ever. Ari.
So it's Empire Strikes Back.
The reason I'm never coming back on this podcast.
Yes, sorry. Ari's favorite movie is Attack of the Clones, unfortunately, but we move on.
What? It's not, but okay.
Where's the disconnect button? But no, so yeah, for all those reasons, like I really wanted more of this show. What we got wasn't bad though. Gave me some things I enjoyed, some things I wish was better. 6 out of 10.
Awesome.
Perfect. Love to hear
Thank you for giving me the time to go through all that.
Yeah.
I love it.
We had a
Honestly,
little documentary.
love hearing Parks talk about Star Wars. It's unreal. But Mike,
but not The Empire Strikes Back, apparently.
No, apparently not.
Oh my god, no. I love The Empire Strikes Back, but oh my god, I just
start going in the chat.
I get it. It's not an original opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't remember. My favorite is actually no, we're not talking about this. Mike, what's your favorite?
I won't judge either way.
What's my favorite movie? Was The Empire Strikes Back. But what's my favorite episode of here? I don't know. I don't know yet. It's either the first or the last. But I will say, even though it's by the way, before I get emotional and stuff like that, talk about this awesome series, I will say, Parks. I was saying I actually watched the credits 2 times today, and the second time around, I noticed that the casting director for this series is the same as Stranger Things, Carmen Cuba. And I was like,
I was noticing that as well, watching both shows over the last few weeks. Yeah.
I was like, it's the same casting director. So I thought that was cool. So little tie in there. But
didn't know this was Stranger Things exchange, but okay.
Parks, how you think about season 4 of Stranger Things? No, just kidding. Me and Parks will do a separate. Me and Parks will do a separate podcast for that.
Yes.
But
Mike, what did you rate the episode? What did you rate the series? What's your overall encompassing thoughts?
Episode I rate probably I'm gonna go an 8 on this one. I'm gonna go an 8 out of 10. Last week I kind of went low. I went like a 7.5 or 6 or whatever. But I think this one deserves an 8. Maybe even an 8.5. I really like this episode, and I didn't really like what they did with Reva. I thought that was a lingering thread that they were just like, we don't know what to do now since we didn't cover in the last episode. Let's just do something crazy and wacky, and that's exactly how she looked with her hair all messed up, walking through the sands of Tatooine. Very, very interesting. But we didn't even get to the discussion of what Reva's doing now in the galaxy.
That's true. That's another thing too. Yeah.
Well, boy. We'll do it on the post-mortem episode of this series. Yeah. But no, I think yes, there was moments in here of this series that I didn't like and whatnot, but overall, I just had a fun time with the series. Yes, I thought 4 was easily the weakest episode, but there were still things to love about it, like Tala and the entire
Tala's a great character.
Yeah, Reva and Obi-Wan infiltrating the base and him walking around being a Jedi, that was just fun. And I think this shows a great example of how to have fun with Star Wars. And I seriously would have loved it. They took a little bit more care because they were dealing with some important stuff that we've been waiting a decade to see, really more than a decade. This meetup of Vader and Obi-Wan. So I wish they handled that a little bit better. It's kind of sad that I'm just like, oh man, we can't. This is it. We can't have them interact like that again for the first time. Well, Hayden's Vader and Ewan's Obi-Wan. We can't have that again. But which is I'm sure they could do something in the future with flashbacks and stuff. But now it's like, man, I kind of wish they had a little stronger thing. But I'll never forget the chills that I had watching the premiere at Celebration and second episode. Ending with Reva confirming that Anakin is alive. And then I will say Natalie Holt has gotten slandered on this podcast, and I apologize. But that one motif, she had it running throughout the first episodes, where it was it was like this singing, it was oh my god, I couldn't even do it.
Well, come on, don't make fun.
Oh, I'm dying. Can we please clip that?
I wasn't gonna react to that at all, but you just
Parks, you see what I?
I'm dead. I'm out.
You put up with
Styles
this guy?
exchanges,
My
I'm
gosh.
Oh my god. What the
Don't forget to
hell?
tune in to Stranger
Oh.
Things Exchange. Coming very soon.
So I didn't even. Most people probably don't find that funny, but that was just so out of
No, I get it.
character
That's
for
one of those
Mike.
things where if you guys are friends and he does that, you're like,
I've been talking to Mike like every day for the last year. He has just never done anything.
it wasn't even that. Mike, you're good. This guy is
Oh my god.
Oh
So
no!
this stream is just
Oh. That's my take on the series, y'all.
because I thought you were talking about something completely different when like Anakin's revealed and it's like bam, and it's like this big thing, and then you just started talking about something else and started singing. I don't know. That was just a lot to digest in like 10 seconds.
Thank you, Parks, for not laughing at me. I
no,
appreciate
dude.
it.
I was like, he's trying. You know, like there's a moment in that
I'm
episode.
sorry.
I don't remember it, but I'm sure he does. He was at the premiere. Like,
Thank you, Parks, for giving me my validation. I was never in choir, so I never learned how to sing, but that was my impression of it. Anyways,
it's Ari's turn now. Why don't you try it?
I didn't get in singing. Yeah, Ari, give us a tune.
Oh no, I don't want to embarrass myself like you just did. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Anyways,
It wasn't even honestly. Probably no one else found it that funny, but
well,
yeah.
Harriet
Let's
said-
get behind this statement. We're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you. Oh wait, no, sorry. I thought that was in reverse. I meant to get behind you. Oh, this is just
this is what Park
what a
puts
way.
up as
This
he's
is
ready.
our final Kenobi coverage. What a way to end it.
Well, I'm just gonna say that I would give this series a 7 out of 10. There we go.
All right. Okay. Now time for me to get it together and ramble about this. So, okay. Let me start by giving my rating for this episode. I would say the first number that came into my head was 8.5. So I'd say that pretty similar to what Mike was saying. But boy, okay, the series. It's so hard. I was talking to my brother just before we did this stream, and I said, after the first 3 episodes, I was loving it. I was like, this is great. But part of me thinking that was like, oh, like I just love where I think this is going. And then part 4 happened, and I was like, that was fun, but that's one episode in a 6-part series. It's about Obi-Wan. Ewan McGregor's back, and we're doing this. Oh, I don't know. And
not
so then,
a bad episode, just like
it's not bad. It's not bad.
It was
it's just
weak compared to everything else.
If you got 6 parts and Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen are in it, please, no weak episodes. I don't know. It's a subjective opinion, but
of course,
that's just how I feel. So, and then episode 5 happened, and everyone really freaked out about it. And I thought it was pretty good, but then I just thought I don't know if this show is fulfilling its full potential. I started to realize that in that episode, and I was getting sick of Little Leia. I was getting sick of Reva. I was like, can we please focus on Obi-Wan and Vader, because it feels like that's what this show should be, and it just wasn't. I love Little Leia, but in that moment, that's how I was feeling. And then now that the finale's over, it was the point where I most felt like Reva really needed to go at the end of part 5. She just really did not need to be in this final bit of the series. And I don't like the idea that she's just out in the galaxy knowing about Luke. That's just a personal thing, though. I just think that's a bit silly. But then, it wrapped it up in a really good way. I'd say episode 1 and 6 were the strongest. As I said, it started in a place I really liked, and it ended in a place I really liked. The journey to get there, however, was just the execution wasn't on point as it should have been, I think, for a story that, kept getting delayed because they're like, we want this to be perfect, and, it's going to be the rematch of the century and all this stuff. So I thought, I'm going to be honest, I expected more, but can you criticize creators for not meeting your expectations? I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know. Can you?
Yeah, it's a hard thing because it's Star Wars.
Exactly.
Like the expectations are already at the ceiling. Let alone
there's just there's already going to be there's already expectations just purely because it's Star Wars. There's expectations for Star Wars, a droid story, but just because it says Star Wars. But the truth is that they had Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen. There was a lot going on, and overall I can't help but feel like it didn't live up to its full potential, and it didn't get. I didn't think it ever would, but I thought it would get closer than this did. So in that sense, I was a little disappointed. However, this series did so much good stuff. Little Leia is just a delight. I love Little Leia. I love what they did with Bail Organa. I love what they did with Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru. The Inquisitors, so Reva was great for 5 episodes. Like that's I can't do maths. That's a decent amount of the series that she was good in.
Over
But
8%, I think.
yeah. Anyways, but then yeah. So overall, just like really, really a lot to take away. And I find with most things, for me personally, maybe you guys feel differently, but as time goes on, the little things that I get annoyed about just kind of just slip away, and I really just start to focus in on this is because what's the point of me like rewatching this in 5 years? Like, oh, just Reva in this episode is so annoying. Like, it's not. There's no joy in that. Whereas in the moment when it's all happening, you can't help but sort of feel that way. So
it's the reason the prequels are beloved now.
Exactly right. And
I gotta sit Ari down and rewatch The Last Jedi with him and make him appreciate Canto Bight. But yeah,
that's a whole other
I would love to be there. I could help with that.
I like The Last Jedi, but Canto Bight, oh my god, what is that? Anyways, what was I even saying? Anyway, my point is like, I think this series will age well. Like Rebels, for example, there were things in the moment when that series was coming out that I didn't like, and Rebels is my favorite Star Wars thing ever. Now, I like it more than any movie or any show. So I think this series will age well. I think as time goes on, from a personal perspective, I'll start to really further appreciate the things that I enjoy what it does and care less about the things that I don't enjoy about it. But yeah, a lot of highlights. I think it would be impossible to talk about this series without mentioning the personal experience that Mike and I went through with it, going to the premiere, being there for the showcase when Ewan and Hayden came out, like that, like just makes it makes me a little bit biased to the series because that just makes me appreciate it so much. And like, that whole day was just insane. And so I don't know, overall, I feel positively about the series. I'm really excited to rewatch the whole thing as a movie. I think I'm going to try and do that as soon as I can. So, a positive feelings, no doubt. I love the characters. The story's great. Execution could have been better, but I need to end on a positive note. So I'll just say Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, couldn't have made me happier seeing them back together. And Ewan, beautiful man, beautiful actor. Love you. Hayden Christensen, exact same sentiment. So yeah, and the series as a whole, I'm leaning toward an 8 out of 10. I just think that's what I think. Is that what you said as well, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I said 7. So
okay.
Right. Well, I might go up. I might go up after I rewatch. Do a rewatch.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think it should be watched as a movie, and I'm curious to see how it holds up as a movie. So that's my closing thoughts. Boys, do we have anything else to say before I wrap it up?
I want to say Ari ended up on a positive note. I want to end up on a negative note. He brought up Rebel. It just now I'm mad because Rebels, Obi-Wan in his dying words was really referring about Luke being like the next hope or whatnot, like that little dialogue exchange. And now Reva's out there. You know what? I'll save that for another time. But anyways,
there is rumors of a Reva spinoff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
Ooh, okay.
We'll see. But
let's read a few things
let's read some chats.
Yeah, of course.
So Gabriel says Brazil is watching you. Well, that's
hello Brazil.
No, love that. Hello to all our Brazil.
Oh my god,
viewers.
Brazilian viewers.
We need more people like that in the world. I don't know what you're referencing, Shane, but
when you were saying
the
that,
comment above that.
Oh, right, Richard. I love all three of you guys because each and every one of you bring positivity to the Star Wars fandom, just like the other people I have met who love Star Wars. Richard, we appreciate you so much. Always in the lives.
Love you, Richard.
Chatting with us, we appreciate it. And also, good luck with your job thing tomorrow. Hope that goes well. Your orientation. So, Mike, I'm never gonna get over that moment. I need to go. As soon as this ends, I'm going to be rewatching that. That was the funniest thing that's ever happened on the podcast. But Mike now knows how Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen felt at F4. God, that's not the support that you were asking. No, Mike is a beautiful podcast co-host. We love having him around, and
obviously
we love
not a good singer.
All that he brings. No, he's a beautiful singer. Shane says, Um, articulating about Andor, maybe is that what that's meant to mean for a title of the episode reviews? Oh, I mean, Andor is next up, I guess. So yeah, Parks, I'm sure we'll have you back to review maybe the finale. Maybe this is a new tradition of ours, the YouTube live with Artorr.
I will
Yes.
say, like, despite the rockiness of Book of Boba Fett and the rockiness of the show for me, I'm extremely excited for Andor. Like,
Yes.
sort of the Vanity Fair article and then the trailer like completely turned me around on it. And I don't know, 12 episodes sounds really good. Seeing how much of this they shot on location or on set sounds really good, and like some of the behind the scenes stuff over the last few years. Diego Luna, I don't know. I'm pretty excited for that show.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
It's shaping up to be pretty good. Ringmaster, I have your back, Mike, but in the way Obi-Wan had Vader's back. Oh,
Thank you, Ryan.
I did.
There's no saving.
Do any of you have any last words to say? Because I want to end on a very specific thing.
What is it?
Oh, you're talking to us. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you
And,
gonna talk
like
about
any
both
last
that were-
thoughts that you just need to get out there
About the
before?
show?
Yeah.
I just want to say, like,
Just
Reva,
about
'cause
life in general,
we didn't get to talk about her too much, but I feel like her character could have been done really well in a longer show, something like Rebels, where you got
I
to
agree.
chart her journey over a long period of time. Here, the beats came quick, and I think overall it works. But yeah, and Moses Ingram, I think her acting was very good.
Yes.
I just
Definitely.
and in a way she sort of creates that bridge between Vader and Obi-Wan thematically, of someone who can choose to do the right thing, ultimately in the end. But other than that, yeah, I look forward to the next Star Wars thing. Keep it coming. And
Shane,
I have the high ground.
Yes.
Not a thought about the show, but all you guys are great. We all love you. Appreciate that.
Thank you,
we
Shane.
love Mod
Thank
Shane.
you, Shane. Shane, thank you, Shane and Richard. I got replies to your DMs. I'm sorry, I've been busy and I haven't had time for my personal account, but I seen your DMs.
Sure.
I got a reply. But yeah, if you're watching, listening on, just let us know what you thought of Obi-Wan for real on the YouTube, because I know everyone in the live chat. If you didn't get to watch live, let us know, because yeah, I obviously you heard our various opinions, but at the end of the day,
I want to end on something real quick.
Oh, I'm not closing up. I just want to talk about.
Oh, okay. It just sounded like your wrap up. I was like, Mike, give me a second.
I just want them to tell us about how they feel about Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah.
So do so,
For
because
sure.
bro, I like Obi-Wan. I feel like this is gonna be a fun rewatch to do. If I do a Star Wars marathon, it's gonna be so fun to do, like Revenge of the Sith, watch all this, and then get to A New Hope. And I feel like the bit is starting already. So I'm gonna shut up.
Sorry, guys. Just give me a sec.
What's he doing?
Sorry, that was so dumb.
Is this the thing you want to end on?
That was not the bit. Okay, I want to end with us all saying our favorite scene or moment or something from the series. Yes, Shadow of the Sith is our next podcast. Look forward to that. But let's start with Mike. What is your favorite scene, moment, whatever it is from the series?
Oh, you had to go to me first on this one.
Well, I want to end on like a really nice positive note.
Yes. Favorite, the one that I'm thinking of the one that's been hitting me recently is the Obi-Wan and Leia end moment when she asked him, like, when will I see you again? Will I ever see you again? That I gotta say that just hit all the strings for me because of life reasons and just because of the context. And it was just very sing it, please. I will not sing for the rest of my podcasting career, unfortunately. Or fortunately for everyone here, but yeah.
Parks, what about you?
I think my favorite moment is as well another Obi-Wan and Leia moment in part 3 when they're on like they're in the back of Freck's like pickup truck, and and I don't know what else you call it. I think Leia's sort of slowly gathering that Obi-Wan like knows her mom, or Obi-Wan's revealing details about it, and then she asks very bluntly, like, "Are you my father?" And that moment where it was like, oh man, like that tore me up a little bit, because just you have to imagine that was like a little moment of Leia being like I have this mystery in my life about my parents. I know the Organas are maybe not my parents, and they won't tell me much about them. But now I'm beginning to wonder, it was just one of those like growing up moments, and you're seeing it in real time, and it was just kind of heartbreaking. Like that's sort of like, yeah, it's just really great. And again, like a testament to Vivian Lear Blair's fantastic acting in the show, and Ewan McGregor as well. That guy is great with kid actors in pretty much any movie. So yeah,
hell yeah. I would say my favorite would be the end of episode 2, where it was a moment that it was like a expectation that I was like, please, if you do anything, you have to show the moment that Obi-Wan realizes that Anakin is alive and he's Darth Vader. And they did that, and I thought it was just executed to perfection.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get just utter chills when Obi-Wan says Anakin, and then it cuts to it, and we have the big bam, and then it's it's all.
Meanwhile, Mike will always remember a different moment of part of that.
Anyway, but
sorry,
that was, and also like selfishly, like being in the room, Mike, I'm sure you feel this way. The crowd reaction to that was just like off the charts. Like everyone was going crazy, and first time seeing Hayden back, which everything about that was great. So that's our Obi-Wan coverage pretty much complete. I'm sure we'll continue to talk about the show. We might do like a little season 1 wrap up or something along those lines. But thank you so much to everyone for tuning in who talked in the live chat, or if you just watched the replay, we appreciate you nonetheless. Comment, let us know your thoughts. It's been fun. Thank you so much to our dear friend Parks for joining us once again for, I think this is like your 4th time or something on the podcast. So
something like that.
4th of many. I'm sure. The third
3.5
Star Wars change.
4.5. Yes.
We appreciate you a lot, and make sure you check out his Mando documentary coming soon. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be an absolute banger. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to Artorr. Check out all his Clone Wars videos. It's what he's best known for. That's how I discovered him, and Mike as well. And
thank you.
Rebels, Fallen Order, it's all there. And of course, some cool non-Star Wars videos if you want to check those out. I watched the Spider-Man Miles Morales one. That was great. Was that what it was? Miles Morales? You did one on that. Yeah. Make sure you check out Parks. Parks, any final things you want to say, and plug your socials and YouTube and all that.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be on here. I love talking to you guys. It's always fun. Thank you for letting me do that entrance earlier.
Oh yes, thank you. That was when you texted me that, I was like, that is hilarious. And then today I was like, I need to not tell Mike about this, because that's just, he's going to be so bewildered by this. So this will be great. So
but
that was all Parks I did, just by the way. Just
so I know it was.
Yeah.
You did not have to tell me. You did not have to tell me.
Yeah.
You can find me, of course, chiefly on YouTube as Artorr. As Ari said, I'm making a Mandalorian video. It's coming out sometime in the next few weeks. I've been working on for the last few months. Crazy video. I think it's the best video I've ever made. So if you like my content, please tune into it. It will be a treat and a half.
That's
other than that, you can follow me on Twitter at Parks Harmon, Instagram is Parks Harmon as well. See you on the flip side.
Hell yeah.
I just want to make an editor's note here. Artorr, I've been knowing you since Sitor, so I did not discover you through your Clone Wars videos. But you did enter my life again with your Clone Wars videos. Sorry, just want to correct Ari there.
A real one, if you will.
I'm an OG. But y'all can follow me at all_Star Wars and on Instagram, Twitter, and make sure you guys do the little Instagram. Check out Instagram, because we be posting. Actually, me and Ari are gonna do we do this now or what?
Do what?
Nah, whatever. Follow our Instagram at the SW.
Well, I think I know what you're talking about, but I still want to.
Just follow us on Instagram, and then you can.
We can do it, because it's like for the people watching live, plus for people who watch till the end. So there you go.
Okay.
As in, like, just say what we're doing next week.
Yeah, you want to say it?
No, you say.
No, you say.
It's your hometown.
It's your plane ticket.
Ooh,
well,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm currently based in New York, as people may know. Temporarily, I'm like away. I'm still an Australian, and I'm going back eventually. But yeah, next week I will actually be venturing off to Chicago to stay with Mike for about a week and a half. So that should be epic. We're going to do so much stuff in person, podcast wise, and just hanging out with my good buddy Mike here. Yeah, Shadow of the Sith. We'll have already read that by the time I'm there, but yeah. So that's for the people who listen till the end / watching live. So there you go. But I'm sure we'll throw something up on Instagram before we do it. But yeah, that should be great, and expect some good podcast content coming because of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys want me to do pranks on Ari where he stays with me, let me know. I need ideas. The way he pranked me earlier, I'm gonna need so many ideas.
No.
You already know I'm full of ideas, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you, bro.
Let me know. I gotta prank.
Let me know. Mike seems to love making a fool of himself, so let's just keep that train
I'll
going.
give you some hints, and then you have to figure it out, like you're in a horror movie, and you have to figure out.
Yes, I'll leave him cryptic notes. Like
shout out to Harry.
Yeah, you want to use the
like
bathroom?
Riddler,
You have to
like the
solve this
Riddler in
riddle.
the movie The Batman.
Yes, exactly. You want to use the bathroom? Solve this riddle. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Parks. I love that.
God.
But yeah, thank you guys. We need a musical, guys. Come on.
Yes, we need. That can be a one-man show since we know who the singer is out of the two of us.
I am quite the singer. Thank you very much. All right, Ari, where can people find you?
Instagram at Star Wars _exchange. But you know what you should follow at the SW exchange, I should say, on Instagram. A lot of podcast stuff there. We've uploaded some pretty funny stuff there, I'd like to think. So yeah, check that out. How about you?
Yeah, and hello. All right,
hello.
I saw you. No,
hello there.
Parks froze. I mean, not Parks. Ari froze for me a second. But anyways, yeah, follow our Instagram and make sure to do the chores. Do the chores on all the podcasting apps that you listen to. Rate us, review us, and if you're on YouTube, subscribe because we want you here, and you guys gotta see what we got in store for you guys in the coming future. But until then, make sure to just keep around us on Instagram. And as we said, follow our friend Parks because you're probably even here watching because of him. So we thank him for that. And yeah it's always fun.
Thank you, everybody. Hello.
Yeah. Say bye to Parks, everybody. But anyways, this has been the live stream for the Obi-Wan series finale or not series finale. We don't know. It could be the season 1 finale. We could have another season, but for all Obi-Wan news, make sure you subscribe.
I still have the high ground.
No. For our podcast listeners, he's waving his what would you call that?
It's a lightsaber, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mind is very dirty. All right. Anyways, see you guys for the next podcast. We love you. May the force be with you. Adios.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Folks. Bye.